This is really our second home from home, and we come here every day. It's my last year. I've been going here for almost 4 years now, and just to see your school burning down in front of you is just devastating.
What once was a school full of history is now the scene of a major excavation project as officials survey what's left of York Memorial Collegiate. The massive fire started at 3:30 a.m. yesterday and burned for more than 24 hours. Officials are now trying to look into the cause of the blaze, the second at the school in 2 days. Ali Hassan joins us live now from York Memorial. And Ali, the auditorium where the fire started, that's coming down. We can see it behind you. But can parts of this building be saved?
Well, Dwight, believe it or not, fire officials say that a lot more of this building is salvageable than originally thought. That being said, we still don't quite know the extent of the smoke damage or the water damage, but we do know at least that it's a big deal. To give you a sense of that, we're told that water is actually up to the ceiling in the school's basement right below us. That's partially because of the water cannons that were used to douse the flames yesterday and the not so helpful fact that a city water main broke in the area not too long ago. So needless to say, we are still far from establishing a sense of normalcy, but there are people trying to get there. We're here on this really sunny day, but we're looking at this black pit. What is it like looking at your school today?
Honestly, it's just you don't appreciate what you have until it's gone. It's my last year. I've been going here for almost 4 years now, and just to see your school burning down in front of you is just devastating.
The wrecking crew came in today. They're not the only ones picking up the pieces.
Our plan, and we're still working out the details, is that our students will all go to the George Harvey site, but we're still working how to do that well.
The York Memorial students will finish out the school year at another school that already has 900 students.
How do we honor two distinct communities that need to come together in one school home? That's our work in the next few weeks.
While that's figured out, some good news from the ruins. Aside from the auditorium, which was gutted, the roof, which disintegrated.
The rest of the building pretty much intact, it looks like anyways. Damage to the building with smoke and water is pretty extensive, so they're going to have to do some work on that.
With the police and fire marshal investigation on the go, a GoFundMe campaign has already been set up for the restoration work.
How we can then rebuild those historic elements that are so personal to not only past students like myself, but to present students and to this generation for future generations.
In the meantime, at least some students can start to move on. A firefighter just handed 10th grader Fadli Ali his stuff that he left in class. Whoa. Okay, first I want to smell your jacket.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty smoky.
Yeah, it is.
And how about your backpack?
And my backpack's drenched. I left a MacBook in there.
Do you know if it still works?
No. I opened it. It doesn't really work. This is my my notebook. They're all stuck together.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah, that's gonna be tough to study from.
It's tough. And they expect us to have exams? You're crazy.
Now, I can't tell you their exam schedule, but the TDSB is committed to getting York Memorial students back to their studies in different classrooms at another school, mind you, as early as next week. And at the same time, the Office of the Fire Marshal investigation and the police investigation into this fire is ongoing. It will be a while yet before we get any answers. I'll send it back to you, Dwight.
Yeah, big loss for that community. Thank you, Ali.
You got it.
A child any parent would hope for. That's how the parents of Dr. Elena Frick remembered their daughter today. It was the first day of a sentencing hearing for Mohammed Shamji, who admitted to killing his wife of 12 years. Lorena Redekop now with the victim impact statements and what Shamji himself had to say in court today.
Not something a 5-year-old boy should ever have to do, walking into court with his grandparents, where his father has admitted to killing his mother. The court heard he has no memories of her. Dr. Elena Frick was a beloved mother, friend, and family doctor, brutally attacked in her home by her husband, Mohammed Shamji. Just 2 days earlier, she told him she wanted a divorce to end their abusive relationship. Their daughters are 11 and 14. The older one heard some of her mother's final moments. Frick's mother gave the first victim impact statement in tears at times, saying there is no penalty this court can give that would ever justify what Mo has done to Alana and to us and the children. He has destroyed all of our lives forever. The children still cannot bear to have their mother mentioned because it is so painful to them. Shamji stuffed his wife's body in a suitcase and threw it into the Humber River. Frick's father told the court, "The horror of having to identify my daughter after her brutal murder, when she was virtually unrecognizable, will haunt me forever. No parent should ever have to do that." The defense also read out multiple letters of support for Shamji from family, colleagues, and patients. Shamji stood up and addressed the court, admitting he killed his wife. He turned to his children, saying, "I've devastated your lives. I've hurt you immeasurably, and I can only say I'm sorry." He told the court, "That night I should have killed myself and not Alana. That would have been the only justice." Though he then said that would have been cowardly.
I said the wrong life was taken in my victim impact statement. I looked directly at him when I said that. The wrong life was taken. You should have taken your own. You took a valuable life. If you didn't like yours, why kill somebody else? You're the menace to society.
The Crown and Defense put together a joint submission. Both are asking that Mohammed Shamji serve 14 years before he's allowed to apply for parole. Now it's up to the judge to decide. Court is back in session tomorrow at 10 a.m. Lorenda Redicop, CBC News, Toronto.
Police in York Region have issued a Canada-wide arrest warrant for the man allegedly responsible for a fatal shooting at a prom after-party last week. 18-year-old Jadea Patterson is wanted for first-degree murder. Police say he is armed and dangerous and that anyone helping him evade police could also face criminal charges. The shooting happened during the early morning hours last Friday at a prom after-party at a rented-out home in Richard-Stouffville. 18-year-old Rizwan Wadi was killed. And one person is dead and one in hospital after a suspected drug overdose at a Milton jail. Halton police say 6 inmates were found in their shared cell block at Maplehurst Correctional Complex using an illegal drug. The inmates were taken to hospital on Monday night. 4 of them have now returned back to the jail.
Currently, detectives from the Criminal Investigation Bureau are investigating in partnership with both the coroner's office as well as the Maplehurst staff.
The Ministry of Correctional Services is also investigating. Police are looking into how the inmates got the drugs and have not revealed what type of drug was used.
2 weeks ago, this boardwalk was underwater. I'm Makta Gebrselassie, and I'm back in Bracebridge for an update on the recovery efforts. That's coming up.
There's a glimmer of hope in Oshawa tonight. The community was devastated after GM announced last November it would stop production at its plant there. But now there are new plans for the facility. Lisa Shing has more on what's next.
The manufacturing town of about 170,000 people is centered around the General Motors plant here in Oshawa. And when the news broke last November, the community didn't know what would happen next. Now there's some hope. Oshawa's automaking future was all but decimated, and thousands of workers would soon be out of a job, part of a global restructuring that saw the closure of 5 plants, including Oshawa's.
So this is about maintaining the footprint.
That's why the news of a $170 million investment from General Motors is a victory of sorts, according to the president of Unifor, who says he kept fighting to keep some form of auto presence in the city.
Am I thrilled with where I'm sitting today? No. But do I understand that this is a heck of a start and a solid business model that will create long-term sustainability? The answer is yes.
That sustainability includes a transition from vehicle assembly to manufacturing car parts, and part of the site will become a test site for autonomous vehicles.
This is very significant, as it will not only support jobs, it will continue to grow our engineering and software development workforce.
300 of the 2,600 jobs will be saved for now. GM says a lot more could be created in the future.
It's better than closing up the place, obviously. But how that affects myself and everybody in there, we'll find out tomorrow.
I got 43 years in here. And I don't know, I just think they should have saved more jobs.
GM is leaving Canada.
Jerry Dias vowed to fight for the jobs following news last fall that GM would stop production in Oshawa by the end of 2019. Unifor held rallies in Windsor across the river from the GM headquarters. It launched an aggressive media campaign against GM, calling for a boycott of its vehicles made in Mexico.
When GM needed help, we gave them $300 from every single Canadian,
including this Super Bowl ad. In March, it pulled back, citing productive talks with the company in the future of the plant, which needed to focus on innovation, according to Oshawa's mayor.
This is where we need to be. We need to be on the edge of new technologies.
Last November, Premier Doug Ford accused the union of grandstanding.
The first thing I talked to the president of GM last night, the first thing I said is, what can we do? What do we have to do? And he said the ship has already left the dock. So now what we're going to do is continue doing what we've been doing to create good paying jobs, to make sure a company is never in this position again.
Today, the opposition wasted no time pointing that out.
You don't throw up the white flag, throw in the towel, say these jobs are gone, the ship has sailed, and walk away.
Even prior to their announcement being made, and we've been in constant contact with General Motors throughout this entire process.
Even though demand is up, some auto experts say car manufacturing in Canada will all but disappear in the coming few decades because it's simply cheaper to make cars in other parts of the world. GM says it's still working on a transition plan for its unionized employees. It's also offering them the option of relocating to one of the other Ontario operations. Lisa Shing, CBC News, Oshawa.
And there was word today on the future of another big GM plant, this one south of the border. The GM plant in Lordstown, Ohio is being sold to a company that builds electric trucks. U.S. President Donald Trump tweeting earlier today that GM will invest $700 million in 3 other Ohio facilities. It will also add 450 jobs. The Lordstown plant halted production in March. GM has cut thousands of jobs recently in the U.S.
Ultimately, I look forward to my immediate reinstatement and a return to serve in Canada.
No person in this country should ever walk into a courtroom and feel like they are fighting their elected government.
The high-profile court case involving the man who used to be the second in command of the military is over. Mark Norman's charges have been stayed, and he and his lawyer, Marie Hennen, had some choice words for politicians today. We'll have the details and the political fallout coming up. Plus,
a wild encounter. It's the latest thing at the Toronto Zoo. Get up close and personal with some of the animals. I'm Greg Ross. We'll tell you all about it coming up. Sparkles. Sparkles. Come here, Sparkles. Doesn't listen to me.
some of us are feeling like Arctic birds because we want stuff to warm up here, Colin.
Yeah, it's a good point. I was going to say, you know, it's hard to complain about the weather on a day like today, but okay, it's not that hard. You know, it was sunny out there, but seasonal for this time of year is 17 degrees, and we just struggle to get into the double digits. So yeah, our temperatures not quite Arctic, but they're on the cool side of things. We're sitting at 11 right now in Toronto. Same thing, Mississauga, Kitchener, Hamilton, Markham, Oshawa, even cooler, just 9 degrees at the moment, and doing slightly better in St. Catharines at 13. Now, we still have the clearer conditions. We've had a few clouds kind of building in, but again, it's been a very pretty day. The next system, though, is on its way. It looks pretty intense at this point, but a lot of this heavier rain at the beginning anyway, is going to pull to the north of the GTA. Don't worry, it's all going to fill in and have an impact on us into Thursday. But at the moment, we see some of these heavier rains pushing over towards Georgian Bay, and that's going to be the earlier trend as this system moves in. So tomorrow morning, a few light showers possible down into the GTA, much greater risk for heavier rains to the north, some embedded thunderstorms as well. Tomorrow afternoon, for the lower Great Lakes, we pick up some of the rain showers, and then getting heavier, we get into rain and the risk of some thunderstorms as we go into the evening hours Thursday, and then overnight to Friday morning, still holding on to some of this residual instability. Because of that, a chance of showers even for Friday, but by the afternoon, I think things are going to be improving and better temperatures too. Overnight tonight, though, just 6 degrees. Tomorrow, with this system moving in, it is going to be very breezy as well. I'm going to talk about the rainfall amounts when I come back, Dwight, and we'll also take a peek at Mother's Day weekend.
Oh, that's important. Thank you, Colin.
It is.
I know this is a penguin, but if you ever want to stand steps away from a tiger while it's feeding, you may get your chance soon. The Toronto Zoo has a new exhibit that peels back the curtain and takes you behind the scenes. For the first time, visitors can get up close and personal with the animals. Our Greg Ross got a sneak peek at what the new Wild Encounters exhibit is all about.
It's no longer just about seeing the animals. At the Toronto Zoo, they want you to encounter them.
How close are you getting to a Watusi?
You're going to get pretty close, and you're going to be able to toss them some snacks.
The Watusi, which are African cattle, are one of 16 animals that you can get close to this year.
Get into the exhibit with our Aldabra tortoises. You can see our polar bears in special behind-the-scenes areas. You get to go see our tigers in behind-the-scenes areas.
Tigers. Are we going to feed the tigers?
You are not going to feed the tigers. This is their sunny beach.
You won't be able to feed the penguins either.
Sparky, come here. Come here. Come here. Hi, handsome. Good boy.
But a zookeeper will bring one to you for your own personal viewing. This is Sparkles.
He really knows his name?
They do.
Sparkles. Yeah. Sparkles, come here. Sparkles, come here.
Nailed it.
Sparkles. Oh, he's out. How close can they actually get?
So we're going to have everyone sitting around our little enclosure and encounter area. We will have the keepers here, and the penguins will be right in front of our faces.
The groups will be small, and visitors will have full access to zookeepers who can answer any questions they may have about the animals.
I thought penguins were bigger. Is this a full-grown penguin?
Yeah, he's full-grown. He's 5. You'll definitely get more in-depth stuff, and you will get a one-on-one time with keepers who work with these animals every single day.
What's this going to cost for somebody who wants to try and do something like this?
So we have 3 different prices, just depending on depending on the encounter. So they range from $25 to $65.
They hope it will not only boost revenues, but also attendance, which has fallen from nearly 1.5 million visitors in 2013 to just over 1.1 million last year.
So just a really great opportunity for us to show a lot of what goes on to behind the scenes at a zoo, what we do, all of the conservation work that we do, all of anything from our horticulture programs to our nutrition programs.
Representatives for the zoo say the Wild Encounters exhibit is nearly sold out for the month of May, and they're already booking into the summer months. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
He was the first person in Canada to receive a face transplant. The operation, a resounding success, but there are concerns about his body rejecting it. We check in with Maurice Desjardins and his doctor coming up after the break.
The weather update is brought to you by Train Extreme Conditions Testing. It's hard to stop a train, really hard. Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
Just about a year ago, Maurice Desjardins became Canada's first face transplant recipient. He'd lost most of the lower half of his face when he was accidentally shot years earlier. Doctors in Montreal performed the groundbreaking, complicated surgery. The operation was deemed a great success, but there were concerns his body might reject the procedure. Our colleagues at Radio-Canada have followed up with the patient. Charles Tissayer has the story and a warning. This report contains graphic images.
Vivre avec un nouveau visage. Comment ça se passe?
Sorry? Yeah, it was a big year. It was a challenging year, but it was an inspiring year also.
The worst-case scenario was avoided. Maurice Desjardins' immune system did not reject his new face. But that victory comes with a price. He's vulnerable to even the slightest infection because of the immunosuppressants he takes.
Maurice, tu fais pas tes exercices par exemple.
Non.
Je le vois.
Non.
Je le vois.
Moi, je
Et c'est parce que ta bouche était ouverte à 3 mm, maintenant c'est à 2 cm.
Pourquoi vous avez cessé vos exercices?
T'étais découragé, Maurice. C'est ça que c'était.
Pourquoi maintenant il ne peut plus fermer la bouche?
It doesn't close because it's like when you have a cast on your wrist. If you don't move your wrist for a month, it's going to be stiff. Same thing with his joints. He hasn't moved it for several months now, and so it's gotten stiff again in this open position. Ouvre la bouche. Ferme. So it's been around 4 months where he stopped his exercises, and we've seen that he's not able to close his mouth the way he was able to, but I know he'll get it back.
3 major infections left him hospitalized for a total of 10 weeks. It all came to a head in March with a serious intestinal infection.
Et malgré tout ça, est-ce que vous regrettez votre décision?
Non.
Ça vaut toujours la peine.
Ouais. Oh, yeah, ouais.
Federal prosecutors have dropped their case against Vice Admiral Mark Norman. The Crown says there is no reasonable chance of conviction. Norman was once second in command of Canada's military. He was accused of leaking cabinet secrets. Murray Brewster has more.
2 former comrades in arms, Vice Admiral Mark Norman and retired Lieutenant General Andrew Leslie, a soon-to-be former Liberal MP who had offered to testify on behalf of Norman at a trial that will no longer take place. Prosecutors say there was little chance of conviction, thanks to evidence dug up by Norman's defense team and presented to the Crown.
It's a complex legal charge, and the information, it was important to us. We had some information, we didn't have the entire information.
The Crown would not say what evidence made them change their minds, and the silence extends even to Vice Admiral Norman's lawyers, who say it's up to prosecutors to reveal it. But it's information about the shipbuilding deal at the center of the case, information the government had in its possession, material the defense says should have been turned over during the investigation.
We have tried day in and day out to try to get that material. It should have been handed over. It should have been handed over to the RCMP. It should have been handed over to the prosecution. It was not. As to the why, I don't know. I'll leave you to answer that.
What we do know is the information relates back to the time when the former Conservative government signed a contract for this ship, the MV Asterix. Vice Admiral Norman was accused of leaking cabinet secrets to the Quebec company that leased the ship to the Navy. For him, today represents a bittersweet vindication, over 2 years after the RCMP raided his home and he was suspended.
I am confident that at all times I acted with integrity, I acted ethically, and I acted in the best interest of the Royal Canadian Navy, the Canadian Forces, and ultimately the people of Canada.
A series of pretrial hearings were marked with allegations the Liberal government interfered in the prosecution. Those claims dragged in former Cabinet Minister Scott Bryson and former Clerk of the Privy Council Michael Wernick. Those claims were dialed back today, at least by the defense team. They are now focused on getting Vice Admiral Norman returned to duty. Marie Brewster, CBC News, Ottawa.
Our senior parliamentary reporter, Julie Van Duzen, joins us now with the political fallout of all of this. Julie, explain to us why this case was so important.
Well, it was certainly important to a lot of people, and especially to the government, because if it had gone to trial, the case of Vice Admiral Norman had gone to trial, it could have been very damaging to the government, and it was getting more and more problematic. The latest twist was that sitting MP Andrew Leslie, who is the former head of the Army and a colleague of Vice Admiral Norman's, was all set to testify on his behalf. And lo and behold, he was there this morning at court to greet Admiral Norman, give him a hug and a handshake in front of a bank of cameras, and who knows what he would have said. Certainly with insider information he would have had on the case, being part of government. And also the government had been facing, since this case began 2 years ago, allegations of political interference, certainly by defense and by the opposition. And so we would have certainly learned a lot more information had it gone to trial, and now it's not going to go to trial. The Prime Minister was asked about political interference this morning. He said there was none. Take a listen.
The process involved in a public prosecution like this is entirely independent of my office. It's an independent process, and we have confidence in the work done by the Director of Public Prosecution.
So it feels like this government is constantly trying to turn the page and move on. Julie, is this the end of it all?
Not according to the opposition, and probably not according to Vice Admiral Norman, who says he has a story to tell and he's going to tell it. Now, certainly from the opposition's point of view, they say that they want to know what was in the documents that were withheld from Vice Admiral Norman's defense, who'd been trying for months and months to get documents that would have helped him in his defense that were not turned over. They want to know what's in those documents. They believe the government, the Prime Minister's office, had a vendetta against Norman because he had raised concerns about the way the government, the newly elected Liberal government a couple years ago, was handling the contract for the naval ship that had already been awarded, and they were looking at possibly changing it. He had concerns about that. So let's take a listen to Andrew Scheer in the House of Commons.
The Prime Minister tried to interfere in a shipbuilding contract, and when he got caught, he tried to destroy the reputation and career of the person who stood up to him. We've seen this before, and it's a dangerous pattern with this government. Why is it that anyone who says no to this Prime Minister ends up with a target on their back?
So Norman says he's happy that he's been vindicated, and he learned today that the government would be paying his legal bills. We don't know how much that will cost. He does want an apology and from the government for putting him through this 2-year ordeal, and he and his legal team are considering suing the government for this hit on his reputation.
Oh, yeah, far from over. We'll be hearing more.
Far from over.
Thank you, Julie.
You're welcome.
Prime Minister is in Bracebridge this hour as the town recovers from flooding. We'll take you there after the break.
all of you coming together tonight gives me an opportunity to say thank you for your leadership, for your service to community, for all the ways in which you stepped up over the past weeks. And
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is in Bracebridge tonight, thanking first responders and volunteers that stepped up to help during the floods. More than 300 Canadian Armed Forces members were in the Muskoka area during the first flooding of last week. The troops, as well as many first responders and volunteers, helped with sandbagging, reinforced properties, and assisted in evacuations. Although first responders were thanked, the work is not done. There's a major cleanup on the way in Bracebridge today. The cottage country town and others in the area are dealing with the aftermath of the devastating flooding. Magda Gabriselassie was there today.
It's very, very devastating.
Beth Bogard looks at what's left of her home after the flooding. This is her workspace, her sewing room. Several other rooms have been damaged too.
Took all the carpets out today, got all the shelving out. It's just a mess. Like, I don't know if this floor has to go out yet. It might.
Taking all that stuff out to the landfill is Bev's husband, Hugh.
This is all the insulation from the floor.
He figures he will have to make 3 or 4 trips.
The town has given us vouchers for the landfill site, so it won't cost money for that, which is going to be a lot because this is all soaking wet.
Just to give you a better idea of how much things have changed, you see that boardwalk over there? People are now walking on it, no problem. But 2 weeks ago, that boardwalk was underwater, and all you could make out was the top of that railing.
We've seen the water recede quite a bit, down over 3 feet.
There has been a lot of talk about how to prevent this from happening again. The mayor finds last week's announcement that the province will set up a task force to update the watershed management plan promising. But
the conversation goes beyond just the watershed, and it also goes into infrastructure near to or adjacent to the watershed and building that up, fortifying it, making it stronger, building roads at a higher elevation, culverts with more capacity to move water.
That's for down the line. Right now, homeowners are busy just trying to dry out their properties.
They are here cleaning out, moving the furniture out, and getting this thing back to where it should be.
Dave Kuhn lives in this home, but he also owns the one next door that collapsed.
No one was in the building, no one got hurt. That is priority. We will wait till the insurance company makes a decision.
Bev and Hugh say their insurance company won't cover this damage. With a repair estimate of about $20,000, they're planning to apply for government funding to help flood victims. Magda Gabriselassie, CBC News, Bracebridge.
And, you know, they were worried about the forecasts up there. Looks like they've gotten a bit of a reprieve, right?
Yeah, well, they have. Dwight had this reprieve, and now here we go again, another system that is going to be moving in. Yeah, is right. We're going to be seeing a lot of rain coming through that area between tonight and all the way through to Friday morning. So the rainfall warning in place. You can see the areas in green. It does include Parry Sound and through the regions towards Bracebridge. Looking at 30 to 50 millimeters of rain. So locally, some of these really heavier amounts could come, especially with some embedded thunderstorms. Then areas surrounding that and all the way through the Ottawa Valley as well, looking at a special weather statement of 20 to 40 millimeters of rainfall possible. And if we just kind of look at the numbers here, we're not going to escape this in the GTA. We're going to see some of this rain too, not quite as early and not quite as much. But look at this particular model outlook in terms of what it wants to give into the area of Parry Sound, a little over that 50 millimeters of rainfall. So real concern there, nearly 25 back towards the GTA. We're looking at 20 to 30 millimeters around the GTA, a little bit heavier to the south of us around the Golden Horseshoe. Current temperatures, this is how things are going to play out and we get to this situation with this rain coming in. So right now we have mostly sunny skies. There have been some clouds building. It's 11 degrees. You see on the radar some of the heavier rain starting to push in pulling north of us. So that's going to go a little to the north. We won't really deal with it through the overnight hours. Might be the odd isolated sprinkle that comes through. It's through the day tomorrow. We start to see an increased chance of getting some scattered showers coming in here. Remains heavy to the north of us. And really, it's later in the day, tomorrow afternoon, and then especially into the evening, where we'll see more of a steady rain. This will become more organized. And again, rumble of thunder, not impossible. It continues overnight Thursday and then moves out on Friday morning. Still some instability, but I'm hoping by Friday afternoon, sky conditions will have improved for us. Overnight tonight, lows of 6 to 7 degrees. Then tomorrow, kind of a drastic range in the temperatures, about 10 degrees in the afternoon for the city, but then increasing in the evening and some warmer temperatures to the south of us. A quick look at the 5-day forecast then. Friday afternoon improves. Saturday looks good, still not seasonal though. And Mother's Day, that's where it gets a little bit iffy there, Dwight. So you have to kind of watch what plans you're making if they're outdoor plans.
Yeah, brunch inside for Mom on Sunday morning.
That sounds perfect to me.
Thank you, Colette. 3 Toronto area landlords are speaking out about what they're calling a nightmare tenant. They say she refused to pay rent, refused to move out, and repeatedly called police making false accusations against them. As Farah Morelli tells us, they say they're speaking out so others don't make the same mistake they did.
Almost 2 months since his basement tenant moved out, and Abdul Mohar is still cleaning up.
You can see this is the rotten meat. It's very smelly. I throw it out, but still you can see there's a blood and everything. So when I try to clean it up.
But leftover food and trash were the least of Mohar's landlord problems.
One day, like around 1:30 on Sunday night, cops came up at my door. Oh, they have laundry in the machine. Can you open the door? So that's what's going on. She called almost every day cops for no reason. Sometimes, oh, he stole my laundry. Sometimes he stole my detergent.
Mohar says for nearly 7 months, those visits from police were a weekly, sometimes daily occurrence. He says his tenant, Israt Khan, repeatedly harassed him and his family.
She's claiming falsely that I assault her. I'm taking her pictures when she was sleeping naked, and I'm taking picture from the window.
On top of it all, Mohar says Khan stopped paying rent, then refused to leave.
I even didn't know that people like her exist in this world.
Mohar did some digging and found out he wasn't alone. He recently met Avtar Singh Chima, who says he went through a similar ordeal with Khan. False calls to police, and she even accused him and his 2 sons of sexually harassing her. CBC News spoke to a third landlord who described a similar experience renting to Khan. It's not the first time Israt Khan has made headlines. In 2016, CBC Newfoundland reported that the province issued a public warning about Khan related to an unlicensed investment company she was running in advertising. CBC Toronto repeatedly tried to reach Khan for comment through texts, emails, and calls.
The number you are calling is unavailable. Please try again later.
She never returned our calls.
It was really frustrating because the landlord and tenant board process is quite lengthy.
Advocates for landlords blame a lack of resources at the Landlord and Tenants Board and loopholes that allow some to game the system.
We have heard examples of tenants not paying rent for a year or longer. And so I think those are the things that need to perhaps be looked at to say, is there not a better way we can do this?
Mohar has this advice for others.
I would tell every single landlord to check their backgrounds, check with the previous landlords, which I didn't do that. If I have done that, I'm not in this situation right now.
He says his first foray into being a landlord will likely be his last. Farah Morelli, CBC News, Toronto.
Dozens of staff at the Ontario Telemedicine Network have been laid off after provincial funding cuts. The nonprofit agency tells CBC News 44 staff jobs have been eliminated. It comes despite repeated promises from Premier Doug Ford and his ministers that no public sector workers will lose their jobs as a result of PC government funding cuts. OTN delivers what it calls virtual health care using video conferencing to link doctors and nurses with patients around the province. OTN received $42 million in funding from the province last year. According to its latest annual report, it helped with nearly 900,000 patient consultations. U.S. President Donald Trump is denying Democrats their chance to see an unredacted version of the Mueller report. He has invoked executive privilege. It comes as his Attorney General, William Barr, has been found in contempt of Congress for refusing to let members see the full report. Ellen Morrow has more now from Washington.
This was yet another day of bitter political fighting over access to the full unredacted Mueller report on Capitol Hill. After weeks of wrangling, the House Judiciary Committee voted to hold Attorney General William Barr in contempt of Congress for not yet turning over a full unredacted version of the report. It was a raucous hearing. It went on all day, and before it began, Democrat Jerry Nadler, the chair of the committee, accused Barr of shielding the president.
The president is taking, as I said, an absolutely lawless attitude that he wants to deny the American people and the Congress all information about his own wrongdoing, about his own breaking of the law.
But before the vote even happened this morning, the White House itself upped the ante, going on the offensive by invoking executive privilege over the Mueller report, teeing up a potential legal battle with the Democrats, who White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders blamed for the standoff.
Chairman Nadler is asking the Attorney General of the United States to break the law and commit a crime by releasing information that he knows he has no legal authority to have. It's truly outrageous and absurd what the chairman is doing, and he should be embarrassed that he's behaving this way.
This fight had been brewing for some time, even before the Mueller report was actually released last month, and neither of today's developments are surprising, but they do escalate tensions between the White House and Democrats on Capitol Hill. Barr likely will not face any real repercussions over today's vote, though he's already been widely criticized over his handling of the Mueller report, including in a letter from Special Counsel Robert Mueller himself, who took issue with the way Barr initially presented his findings to the public. It's unclear whether Democrats will ever get access to the entire Mueller document, with both sides accusing the other of playing politics. One big question looming in the background is when and if Special Counsel Robert Mueller himself will appear on Capitol Hill and testify and bring more clarity for the American public. Ellen Morrow, CBC News, Washington.
Remember the movie Bend It Like Beckham? Well, they're turning it into a musical, and it's going to premiere right here in Toronto. Coming up, I talk with the director. As we head to break, here's a look at where the markets closed today. Stay with us. We will be right back.
This market update is brought to you by SSQ Insurance, reminding you that stronger communities make every person stronger.
Bend It Like Beckham was a breakout hit for director Gurinder Shadrad. Tomorrow, she'll premiere her new movie at the International Film Festival of South Asia in Mississauga. I spoke to her about the importance of telling cross-cultural stories and how she's bringing new life to her most famous film.
I don't want you running around half naked in front of men.
We've been invited to play in Germany this Saturday.
There's going to be an American scout there. I can't. What are you going to have to give up next?
Bend It Like Beckham is still relevant, even though it was so many years ago. It's still very relevant because it's about that, discussing that moment where parents from one generation and one country are trying to hold on to their stuff, and kids are going, no, we want that, but we also want this, and so that stuff doesn't go away. And with every new generation, and no one tells those stories and tells them in a way where you can celebrate them, but also to look at the complications of them.
You're also working on the musical, which is what we want to talk about.
Yes.
Why do you want to premiere it here in our city? Not that we mind at all.
No, well, we had to think about where could we go, and I've always loved Toronto because it's a city, within a country that really embraces all these stories from all over the world.
Now, how does this change, though, when you turn this film into a musical then?
So what you love about the film, hopefully, is all the emotional stuff and all the guilt between the parents and the girl.
Yep.
So now you add music to that and dance, and you're like in Guilt City. It's a little bit like Fiddler on the Roof,
Oh, okay.
It's like that. I love that musical, and so that's what I was channeling when I was working on it. And then recently I've seen Come From Away, which is spectacular.
Yes.
And in fact, I'm going to go and see it again tonight.
Excellent.
Here in Canada, in Toronto. And what's great about that musical is it takes difference, and celebrates it, even though it was such a tragic time. And those are the stories we need to be telling, especially at this moment. That's why I'm so happy to bring Bend It Like Beckham, the musical, back and launch it here in Toronto, because I feel this is the community, this is the city that not only appreciates those storylines, but celebrates them.
Yeah. Well, that's our experience. We're living that here.
Yeah.
We'll stick with the musical theme right now.
Yeah.
So your next film, Blinded by the Light.
Yeah.
You're dealing with Springsteen.
Yep.
And you're doing this cross-cultural thing again. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah. Well, it's been a few years since I made a film like that, and so Blinded by the Light, I was like, no one else has made a film like Bend It Like Beckham in all these years. Why? I don't understand. So I thought it's about time I do another one.
I can feel it all right here. It's like Bruce knows everything I've ever felt, everything I've ever wanted. You think that this man sings for people like us? But he talks to me.
So Blinded by the Light is kind of that world, but he's a Pakistani boy. It's 1987. He wants to be a writer, but his parents are like, no, we haven't got any money, you can't go to university. His dad gets laid off, and he's stuck in a boring town called Luton. And someone gives him a cassette of Bruce Springsteen, and through Bruce's words and music, he learns how to deal with the struggles in life, but to come out on top, which is kind of what Bruce's message is about the world. So again, it's very uplifting, and again at this time, I feel that we're living in times where, certainly where I live, obviously in England, we have, with Brexit going on, we have a lot of divisions.
We have some of those issues here in North America too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right next door.
I just feel I feel very responsible to say that I believe the world is full of good people. People who are interested in each other, interested in each other's stories. And since there's so little of that going on, people like me telling those stories, I just wanted to bring the musical back and launch it again on a world tour where we can all sort of celebrate our difference, but also celebrate what a great society we are when we're all together.
I love the message. I love the themes you keep exploring, and we appreciate you bringing Bend It Like Beckham, the musical, here. But also, you're going to be premiering, kind of, Blinded by the Light at IFSA right here in Brampton.
Yes, IFSA in Brampton.
Yes, man.
Yes.
And B-Town apprecites it. Such a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you.
I love the film. I can't wait to see the musical.
You want to kick a ball with me now?
Yeah, we should go. Don't kick the ball. CBC Toronto is the sponsor of the International Film Festival of South Asia. Gurinder's film, Blinded by the Light, will premiere tomorrow. Bend It Like Beckham, the musical, debuts at Toronto's Bloom Appel Theatre in December. Coming up next, what do a red-headed comic book character, a red-blooded American TV character, and the newest member of the royal family have in common? their name. We'll take you to England as Harry and Meghan reveal their child's name, Archie. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Prince Harry and Meghan introduced their newborn son to the world today, Archie Harrison Mountbatten Windsor. Archie is not a traditional royal name, but one of the most popular in England right now. Dominic Velitis tells us how people are reacting.
So a busy day for the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, a busy day too for their new baby boy. First there was that big photo opportunity here in Windsor, and then news of a name. In a statement released on social media channels, palace officials said the Duke and Duchess of Sussex are delighted to announce that they have named their son Archie Harrison. So Archie Harrison it is. Here's how people in Windsor reacted to the news.
We never expected them to be traditional, as in, following royal prestige or whatever. Good for them to choose what they wanted.
I think Archie's a lovely British name and Harrison sounds American, so a nice compromise.
I was kind of glad to see that they seemed to do what they wanted to do. I think it's lovely.
So the Duke and Duchess of Sussex have opted for a more modern name. No word of any title for their new baby boy either, so it looks like they have rejected that, as Princess Anne did with her 2 children. But it is the final piece in the puzzle in the story of this royal birth. Archie Harrison Mountbatten Windsor, as he is now known, was born on Monday the 6th of May 2019 at 5:26 a.m, weighing 7 pounds and 3 ounces. He is the Queen's 8th great-grandchild and 7th in line to the throne. Dominic Velitis, CBC News, Windsor.
Now serving guests with order number 1176. 11, that's you? Here you go, sir. I've got a new job. I'll explain coming up after the break. What color do you want? You want blue? Okay, let's see if I can get a blue for you. There you go, sir. Pull it. This one here, press it.
Sir,
Okay.
scan.
I'm gonna scan this. That's it? Okay, I'm ready to go. Now serving guests with order number 334. I'm not very good at this, so I don't know what's happening. 3:30. Today is McCaffrey Day at McDonald's restaurants across the country. I joined in the festivities at the Jane and Finch Mall. It's the one I frequented growing up. The annual event invites Canadians to treat themselves to some fast food for a good cause, all in support of Ronald McDonald House, which helps families stay together while their sick child is being treated in hospital. The mayor and the premier also took part in festivities at other GTA locations. Thanks to the team up at Jane and Finch for letting me serve up some fries and some fun with them today. I had a great time. Next year, I'm going to bring you up there with me.
Yeah, you're good at that.
No, I wasn't
really
that
good.
good. I
Where's
messed
my
up all
balloon?
kind of orders. All right, 30 seconds to go. What do we have?
Well, I'll tell you, overnight tonight, 6
Good.
degrees. We'll see more cloud cover in here, but it's tomorrow. Through the day, we have a chance of showers, but that really increases as we get into the afternoon and evening hours when we'll see the heavier rain, some embedded thunderstorms possible. 10 degrees in the afternoon, but the temperature will continue to rise tomorrow evening, so it'll go up to about 13.
All right, we got 8 seconds left. We disagree. She likes Archie. I don't
do like
Archie.
it.
We'll see you back here tomorrow at 6, everybody.